Do you ever wonder what makes an artist like Adam Hughes a living legend in the comic book world? Today, I'm diving into the secrets behind his iconic Copic Marker sketches, something he's famous for at conventions. I'm going to push myself out of my comfort zone and tackle his process step by step, from pencils to markers all the way to inks. Stick around, because this study completely changed how I approach my own art, and it might just do the same for you. For those of you who might not be familiar with Adam Hughes, let me give you a quick rundown. Adam Hughes is a titan in the comic book industry, renowned for his good girl pinup art with a unique Art Nouveau twist. His work is not just about drawing beautiful women. It's about capturing elegance, strength, and a certain timeless quality that makes his characters leap off the page. His ability to blend classic beauty with modern sensibilities is what sets him apart. Whether it's the strong, confident poses or the meticulous detail in his compositions, Adam Hughes is instantly recognizable and widely respected. And let's not forget those masterful Copic Marker sketches that become a staple at conventions. They're much more than just quick sketches. They're fully realized pieces of art that showcases skill, control, and deep understanding of anatomy, light, and form. Now, before we get into the process, let's talk about what a master study is and why it's such a valuable tool for any artist. A master study is when you take time to closely examine and replicate the artwork of a great artist, like Adam Hughes, to learn from their techniques, process, and even their thought patterns. This isn't about tracing or copying mindlessly. It's about dissecting every decision the artist made and understanding why they made it. It's an exercise in humility, where you step into the shoes of a master to see how they think, how they solve problems, and how they bring their ideas to life. But remember, the goal here isn't to pass off the study as your own work. Instead, it's about taking those lessons and applying them to your own creations. It's about growth, pushing your boundaries, and refining your skills by learning from the best. For this study, I decided to use one of Adam Hughes' Copic illustrations of Supergirl as my main reference. This piece is a great example of his style, graceful with a perfect blend of strength and femininity. While it's perfectly fine to copy this directly, I wanted to challenge myself a bit more. So, I decided to use this reference as inspiration to draw a different character, Mary Jane from Spider-Man. Now, you might be wondering why I didn't just replicate the original reference. The reason is simple. By drawing a different character, I forced myself to analyze Hughes' technique more deeply. Instead of my brain going on autopilot and just copying his work, I'm actively thinking about how to transpose his process into a new subject. This approach eliminates the risk of mindless copying and forces me to be more critical in my process. It's a way to ensure that I'm really learning from the study, or rather than just reproducing someone else's work. Let's break down Adam Hughes' general process, because understanding this is crucial to getting the most out of our study. Hughes typically starts with a light pencil sketch to establish the basic anatomy and composition. This step is all about getting the proportions right, setting the stage for everything that comes next. Once it's in place, he moves on to Copic markers, layering colors from light to dark to build up shadows and depth. This is where his knowledge of anatomy really shines. He understands exactly where to place these shadows to give his characters a three-dimensional look. Finally, he adds inks, but here's where it gets interesting. He doesn't always ink every part of the piece. Sometimes, he'll let the marker work do the heavy lifting, especially on elements like the face. The soft transitions of the markers can create a more subtle and nuanced look than inking might overpower. This selective use of ink is a technique that really sets his work apart and something I was eager to try out in my own study. Now, This process is quite different from how I usually work, and that's where the real learning begins. My normal approach is to start with pencils, move to inks, and then add rendering as the last step. It's a method that works for me, but working through Adam Hughes' method has opened up some interesting possibilities. For instance, by not inking certain elements like the face, you allow the rendering to take stage, creating a more subtle and nuanced look. It's a reminder that there's no one-size-fits-all approach to art. Every artist has their own unique way of doing things, and there's always something to learn by stepping outside of your usual routine. This experience made me rethink the order in which I approach my work and consider how I use these techniques in future pieces to create different effects and moods. When I first started this illustration, I tried using the Canvas app because they have Copic Markers built right into the software. I thought it would be the perfect tool for this study since it promised to replicate the look and feel of actual Copic markers. But I quickly found that the app didn't really layer the brush effectively, which was frustrating. The markers didn't blend the way I needed them to, and it was tough to get the depth and richness that Hughes achieves in his work. So I switched to Clip Studio Paint for this video. The marker brush in Clip Studio Paint handled mixing and layering much better, though it still lacked the textures you expect from actual Copic markers. It was a compromise, but one that I felt was necessary to get the results I was aiming for. This experience highlighted how important it is to choose the right tools for the job. Even the best techniques can fall flat if you don't have the right tools to execute them. In terms of technique, Hughes starts with the lightest value he has on hand, covering the surface area of his illustration with that color. Then, he works from light to dark, layering in shadows and depth as he goes. This technique of working from light to dark is something that really stood out to me. It's a methodical approach that assures the illustration maintains a sense of cohesion and depth. Hughes' deep knowledge of anatomy really shines here because he knows exactly where to place those shadows to give his characters a three-dimensional look. This is where the study gets challenging. It's not just about laying down color, it's about understanding why the color goes where it does. It's about critically thinking at every step and asking yourself, what would Hughes do here? And trying to internalize those decisions. The more you do this, the more those decisions become second nature, and that's when the real growth happens. Now switching back to the technical, one thing I really wish Clip Studio had was a built-in library of Copic color selections. That would have made this entire process so much easier, and honestly, I'd probably create these type of illustrations more often if those features were available. It's something that could really streamline the workflow when trying to mimic Hughes' style. Having the exact colors at your fingertips will work out a lot of the guesswork of the process and allow you to focus more on the art itself than fiddling around with color setting. But, as with any tool, there are always trade-offs, and it's important to be adaptable. Even without the exact Copic markers, you can still achieve a similar effect by being mindful of your values and how you layer them. It's a reminder that while tools are important, they're not everything. The artist's skill and understanding are what really brings a piece to life. Getting back to the drawing, as I worked on this piece, I ended up not liking how I inked the hair. It just didn't look right for Mary Jane. It's one of those moments when you know something is off, but you're not quite sure what it is. So I took a step back, looked at other references, and redrew the hair. Sometimes you have to trust your instincts and be willing to make changes, even if it means redoing a part of your work. It's all part of the process. No piece of art is ever perfect on the first try, and being open to your adjustments is crucial to the process. This experience reminded me of the importance of being flexible in your approach. Art is a constant process of refinement, and sometimes that means going back and reworking things until it feels right. Don't be afraid to make those changes. They're what leads to a stronger final piece. To complete the look, I added some paper texture to the illustration. This step is all about bringing the piece together, giving it that final touch that makes it feel complete. I also duplicated my render layer and set it to multiply to improve the values of my sketch. This is a little trick I use to enhance contrast and make sure the different elements of the illustration really stand out. These final adjustments are where you really start to see the piece come to life. It's just a rewarding part of the process where all the hard work that you put in starts to pay off. The paper texture adds a bit of that traditional feel that Hughes' work would have had, which is something I wanted to capture. The multiply layer helps to unify the piece and bring out the depth in the shadows, giving the illustration a more polished and professional look. However, my big takeaway from this study is that I need to spend more time studying how Adam Hughes controls his values. His ability to get the maximum impact with a predetermined range of values is something I definitely want to incorporate into my own work. Value control is one of those foundational skills that can have a huge impact and really make or break your illustration. It's what gives a piece its depth, its mood, and its overall impact. Hughes is a master at this, and it's something that I think every artist can learn from. The fact that I had to use multiply layers to improve my values really highlights my weakness in this area, and it's helpful to do this master study to uncover that weakness. This study has given me a lot to think about in terms of how I approach my own work and the areas of which I can improve. It's a reminder that no matter how experienced you are, there's always something new to learn, and there's always room for growth. And really, that's what makes drawing and art in general so exciting. So, that's it for this master study. I hope you guys enjoyed coming along on this journey with me. Studying the greats like Adam Hughes is a fantastic way to improve your own art, and I encourage you to give it a try. Don't be afraid to step out of your comfort zone and tackle something new. It's where the most growth happens. As always, if you like this video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Your support really helps the channel grow and allows me to keep creating content like this. And let me know in the comments if there's any other artists you'd like me to do a master study on. I'm always looking for a new challenge and new ways to learn. Thanks for watching, and as always, keep drawing.